Forge gang. All right, so I'm going to go through the second Reconstruction against the people of the South to kind of better give people something of a better analysis of what was going on at the time. So there we go. Let me get to screen sharing this. All right, so I just covered my geopolitics of what could essentially be considered the golden age of American opulence after World War II. But this entire phase of American participation in the Cold War with mutually assured destruction and Star Wars, not the cinema series, but Star Wars, the program of deterring Soviet aggression and the like. This period actually runs through the same time period as when the federal government pushes desegregation against the southern states, which is really nothing more but the finishing mantra of the original Reconstruction after the Civil War. So this is just basically an addendum, you could say, to my overall geopolitics of world history from World War I down to the present era, 2022. So I'll go ahead and I'll cover through some of that history of the Second Reconstruction against the people of the Calvinist South. So the first presidential Reconstruction began in 1863, and it came to an end in 1877. And basically, the North abandoned the black people of the South. The Redemptionists and the Red Shirts came into power in all of the different southern states, and they basically brought back racial codes or race codes known as the Jim Crow laws, which basically returned the southern states to white rule. So this presentation is going to be the process of the undoing of that. So currently, with the destruction and defacing of Confederate monuments and Confederate historical markers, as well as the Black Lives Matter protests, we're currently undergoing the third Reconstruction. So I'm going to be talking about the second Reconstruction. All right, so let's see here. Yeah, it should be going. All right, second Reconstruction. Many years ago, I spent a considerable amount of time studying the subject while putting together the American racial history timeline. I started but never finished that project. When I first launched this website lately, I have turned my attention back to more recent history. There are deeper causes to the South's current predicament. The United States fought the Second World War in the name of liberal democracy and the Cold War in the name of free market capitalism. The origins of both lie much further back in American history. The mass immigration of Jews and Roman Catholics to the United States goes back to the late 19th century, which was after the first Reconstruction. The development of mass media technologies began in the early 20th century. We can trace these threads back further in American history. As far as the South is concerned, you don't have to dig past the topsoil of our history as a people to find the real South. The changes that we have experienced are very recent and a product of the last two generations. they were also imposed arbitrarily on the South from the top down by the federal government between 1938 and 1974. The people here hated the Second Reconstruction and resisted it with all their power. But they lost that war because the South was a minority section within the Union. The South had been a deviant section within the Union since the war between the states, which is another reference to the U.S. Civil War, 1861 to 1865. All right, continuing with all its own laws and customs, and this era is best seen as bringing it to heel and remaking it fully in the image of the North and West. So the first Reconstruction period from 1862 to 1877 was only largely a half success and half failure. The South continued to retain much of the same character that it had before the Civil War in the antebellum period. And there was a major backlash in the first Reconstruction. There is also likewise an equally very strong backlash in the South to the Second Reconstruction. But this time, by 1974, they succeeded, these elites in Washington, Boston, and Los Angeles. They succeeded in completely remaking the South in the image of the rest of the Union, more or less. So the Second Reconstruction began in the late 1930s in the context of Hitler's rise to power in Germany and the ideological challenge that fascism posed to liberal democracy. World War II was a war between fascism and liberal democracy that dramatically changed white racial attitudes in the North and West. It was during the years from 1938 to 1945 that racism became stigmatized. After World War II, Northern Democrats demanded that civil rights reform be placed at the top of the national agenda, which ultimately destroyed the New Deal coalition. The Cold War began with the Soviet Union, and segregation became an embarrassment and liability for the American political class. It was a foreign policy albatross for the leader of the free world. Cold War presidents from Harry Truman through LBJ, along with the Supreme Court and lopsided majorities in Congress in the North and West, pushed through the civil rights revolution. The civil rights movement was a grassroots movement that responded to these incentives to rebel against segregation, which were coming from the top down. So the Southern people themselves, neither the whites nor the blacks of the South, were really that much engaged with the process of desegregation. It was overwhelmingly a project from the federal government and from people in the northern and western sections of the country to bring the South to heel and bring an end to racial segregation and Jim Crow that had grown up in the South. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, the urban riots in the North and West, the growth of the counterculture, the peace movement during the Vietnam War, a series of bombings by left-wing terrorist civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., turning their attention to northern cities and poverty and wealth redistribution, Southerners cynically supporting national civil rights legislation, and the riots over forced busing brought the Second Reconstruction to an end in a backlash that gave rise to the Nixon presidency. It was launched by Northern liberals and only came to an end when a critical mass of whites in the North and West began to oppose the resulting crime and cultural disorder. So here's some pictures of the second Reconstruction period. So here are some of the key dates. All right, so the second Reconstruction has its apotheosis in the year 1938. The American Anthropological, okay, so 1938, the American Anthropological Association unanimously passes a resolution condemning racism. The Carnegie Corporation commissions Swedish economist Gunnar Myrdal to write a comprehensive study of American race relations. Gunnar Myrdal arrives in the United States. The first use of racist has an adjective in the English language appears. 1939, television is introduced to the American public at the New York World's Fair. So television is going to have an enormous impact on American public in the 50s and 60s in regards to this sudden change in attitude. 1941 to 1945, the United States joins the Allies and wages war against the Axis powers of Germany, Japan, and Italy in World War II. Black activists call for a double V campaign, the defeat of enemies abroad and racism in America. White racial attitudes change dramatically in the North and West. A. Philip Randolph threatens a march on Washington. President Roosevelt then issues Executive Order 8802, banning racial discrimination in hiring of government of defense industry during the Second World War. 1942, Ashley Montagu publishes Man's Most Dangerous Myth, The Fallacy of Race. James Farmer founds the Congress of Racial Equality, CORE. 1943, the Magnuson Act repeals the Chinese Exclusion Act. The Magnuson Act repeals the Chinese Exclusion Act and permits Chinese nationals in the U.S. to become naturalized citizens. 1944, Gunnar Myrdal publishes his study of American racial relations, titled An American Dilemma, which becomes the cornerstone of the later Brown versus Board of Education ruling that forced integration of public schools. Smith versus Albright, the Supreme Court abolishes the white primary. Harry McAlpin becomes the first black admitted to the White House press conference. 1945, end of World War II. American racial attitudes changed dramatically between 1938 and 1945 as racism is stigmatized due to wartime propaganda. A majority of white Americans, particularly upper middle class liberals in the North and West, come to believe in racial equality for the first time in American history. 1946. Secretary of State Dean Atkinson issues a study of the damage domestic racism had on American diplomacy. The Luce-Keller Act of 1946 grants naturalization rights to Indians and Filipinos and reestablishes immigration from India and the Philippines. Morgan v. Commonwealth of Virginia, the Supreme Court forbids racial segregation of bus passengers engaged in interstate travel. President Truman issues Executive Order 9808, which establishes the President's Committee on Civil Rights. In light of changing racial attitudes among Northern Democrats, civil rights reform moves to the top of the national agenda during the Truman presidency. National Football League welcomes its first black players, integrating professional football. 1947, the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union begins when the Truman administration commits the containment policy. President Truman's Committee on Civil Rights issues its 178-page report titled "To Secure These Rights." The report calls for laws requiring states to end discrimination in education, mandating a ban against discrimination in the armed forces and the armed services, laws to guarantee fair employment practices for blacks, federal prohibition of lynching, repeal of poll taxes and other discriminatory voting restrictions, denial of federal grants when discrimination in evidence, an expanded civil rights division at the Justice Department, creation of permanent civil rights commissions at the federal and state levels, specific federal ban on police brutality, and enforcement of a Supreme Court decision against restrictive real estate covenants. A poll shows 82% of the American people are reportedly opposed to President Truman's civil rights program. So most American citizens at the end of the 40s are not really buying into this stuff. And this is not just limited to the South, this is all over the country. So there's actually already a massive backlash. President Truman speaks at the annual meeting of the NAACP, the first chief executive to ever do so. William and Alfred Livet, both Jews, pioneer the mass production of suburban housing, Livet towns, where white Americans would later move after taking out federally subsidized housing loans and where their children would become deracinated. Patton versus Mississippi Supreme Court rules all white juries unconstitutional. Jackie Robinson joins the Brooklyn Dodgers, becoming the first black player in Major League Baseball since 1887, breaking the color line in baseball. 1948, President Truman sends a special message to Congress proposing a 10-point civil rights program, including an anti-lynching measure, abolition of the poll tax, a permanent fair employment practices committee, a Justice Department Civil Rights Bureau, and the abolition of segregation in interstate commerce. President Truman introduces civil rights legislation and issues executive orders concerning fair treatment in federal employment and desegregation of the military. President Truman orders the desegregation of the U.S. military with Executive Order 9981. Democratic Party splits after the adoption of a strong civil rights plank at its national convention. The Dixiecrat Revolt, a group of Southern Democrats from the states' rights Democratic Party to oppose the re-election of Harry Truman because of his proposed civil rights program. Perez versus Sharp. California Supreme Court strikes down California's anti-miscegenation law. Sipuel versus Board of Regents of the University of Oklahoma. The Supreme Court orders OU to provide black students with the same legal education it provided for white students. Shelley versus Kramer. Supreme Court strikes down de jure racial segregation, restricted covenants in housing. Larry Dorby integrates the American League in Major League Baseball, playing for the Cleveland Indians. 1949. at least 17 states: Alabama, Arkansas, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and West Virginia, and the District of Columbia had enacted laws requiring racial segregation of public school children. 4 other states, Arizona, Kansas, New Mexico, and Wyoming, provided for a local option in determining whether to segregate public education. Wyoming was the only state that did not exercise this option. Also, the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is founded. A federal court orders the University of Kentucky to admit blacks to its engineering, graduate law, and pharmacy schools. NBA welcomes 3 black players. Integration of nationwide professional basketball. 1950, Sweat v. Painter. Supreme Court rules that when considering segregated graduate education, intelligibles must be considered part of substantive equality. McLaurin v. Oklahoma State Regents. Supreme Court rules that an institution of higher education could not provide different treatment to a student on the basis of race. Henderson v. United States. Supreme Court abolishes racial segregation in railroad dining cars. Integration of the NBA. Althea Gibson breaks the color line in tennis. 1951, NBC institutes a code of standards and practices that required that all groups represented on the radio be treated with dignity and respect. USIA creates a pamphlet for American ambassadors designed to help them depict American race relations in a positive manner, titled The N-Word in American Life. Brown reaches the Supreme Court. 1952, NBC implements a policy of integration without identification, allowing the N-word to appear on the radio without explicit reference to race. The McCarran-Walter Act lifts the ban on Asian immigration established by the Asian Exclusion Act. Supreme Court hears arguments in the Brown case. 1953, CBS pulls Amos and Andy from the air after N-word protest. Earl Warren becomes Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Desegregation of public schools in Washington, D.C. The Baton Rouge bus boycott is the first of its kind in the American South that attempted to end segregation on city buses. 1954, the Supreme Court decides for the plaintiffs in the landmark Brown v. Board of Education. The ruling makes illegal segregation and discrimination in the nation's public schools. Bowling v. Sharp. Supreme Court outlaws racial segregation in Washington, D.C. public schools. Hernandez v. Texas. Supreme Court rules that the 14th Amendment extends beyond whites and N-words and covers individuals of Mexican ancestry. Founding of the Citizens' Councils in Mississippi. So already this is a direct continuation of the original Reconstruction. Okay, buddy, you're going in timeout for using racial slurs on my chat. All right, 1955, Brown 2. The Supreme Court renders its decision on the implementation of the Brown decision. Emmett Till, a 14-year-old black native of Chicago, is kidnapped and murdered while visiting family in Mississippi for whistling at a white woman. 2 men are arrested for his murder, but are later acquitted, sparking a national controversy and widespread coverage by the white Northern press. Massive resistance, a segregationist strategy to reduce integration, is outlined on the editorial pages of the the Richmond Newsletter on November 21st, 1955. NAACP activist Rosa Parks is arrested in Montgomery, Alabama, for violating a city ordinance and Alabama state law by refusing to give up her seat on a municipal bus to a white man. Her decision inspired the later Montgomery bus boycott, which lasted for 381 days. 1956. Gale versus Browder. Supreme Court outlaws segregation in all public transportation. Atherine Lucy attempts to integrate the University of Alabama but fails when students riot. We'll go figure. Montgomery, Alabama bus boycott began in 1955, ends after 381 days, drawing national and international attention, and propels Martin Luther King Jr. to the forefront of the civil rights crusade. Supreme Court rules that the racial segregation of Montgomery buses is unconstitutional. Integration of the University of North Carolina. So yeah, it goes on and on. So by the time that we get to the 70s here, it's pretty much, gone full circle. So by the time that you get to the 1980s, segregation is effectively no more. Okay, you're going in timeout as well. All right. Yeah, I'm going to time all you guys out for 5 minutes. All right. Why did the South lose the Second Reconstruction? Have you ever wondered why the South lost the Second Reconstruction? Why did the Jim Crow South collapse all of a sudden in the 1960s? Why did Martin Luther King Jr. succeed in redefining the meaning of America? Why did the civil rights movement seem to run out of gas in the late 1960s and early 1970s? Here is the vote on the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This is the original House version. Southern Democrats voted 7 against 87, 7 to 93%. Southern Republicans voted 0 to 10, 0 to 100%. Northern Democrats voted 145 to 9, 94 to 6%, 94 to 96%. Northern Republicans voted 138 to 24, 85 to 15%. The Senate version. Southern Democrats voted 1 to 20, 5 to 95%. Only Ralph Yarborough of Texas voted in favor. Southern Republicans voted 0 to 1, 0 to 100%. John Tower of Texas. Northern Democrats voted 45 to 1, 98 to 2%. Only Robert Bard of West Virginia voted against. Northern Republicans voted 27 to 5, 84 to 16%. And then here is the vote on the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the House version. Southern Democrats 22 to 62, 26 to 74%. Southern Republicans 1 to 15, 6 to 94%. Northern Democrats 200 to 1, 99 to 1%. Northern Republicans 113 against 8, 93 to 7%. The Senate version. Southern Democrats voted 2 to 17, 10 to 90%. Only Ross Bass and Albert Gore Sir of Tennessee voted in favor. Southern Republicans 0 to 2, 0 to 100%. John Tower of Texas and Strom Thurmond of South Carolina voted against. Northern Democrats 40 to 0, 100 to 0%. Northern Republicans 29-0, 100%. 100-0%. Hey, what's up, Thaddeus Slick? There was also the Civil Rights Act of 1957, the Civil Rights Act of 1960, and the Civil Rights Act of 1968. But it was the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 which dismantled Jim Crow. The Supreme Court dismantled the white primary, Smith versus Allwright, in 1944, integrated interstate transportation, Morgan v. Commonwealth of Virginia in 1946, ended restrictive covenants, Shelley v. Kramer in 1948, integrated public schools, Brown versus Board of Education in 1954, integrated public transportation, Galey versus Browder in 1956, struck down anti-miscegenation laws, Loving v. Virginia in 1967, and began forced busing to achieve desegregation, Swain versus Charlotte Mecklenburg in 1971. The Cold War presidents from Truman to LBJ pushed the Second Reconstruction until Richard Nixon was elected to quell it. The mainstream respectable types fought back through the citizens' councils, which were a lot like the Tea Party councils in the first Reconstruction. Massive resistance and nullification. The violent vanguardists joined the Klan and fought back through bombings and shootings. The southern states passed hundreds of new segregation laws. Some people got so mad that they began voting for the Republican Party. So this is when the mass of white Southerners moved away from the Democrat to the Republican Party. At the end of the day, 90% of Southerners in Congress voted against the two bills that ended Jim Crow, which only passed because Northern and Western Democrats and Republicans were even more united behind the Second Reconstruction, which came to an end only when the social revolution that they had unleashed began to engulf them too. This war was lost outside the South in the North and West, where white racial attitudes, particularly those of upper middle class suburbanites, changed between 1938 and 1965. After the Second World War, civil rights surged to the top of the national agenda during the Truman administration and was pushed forward by both parties at all cost in spite of the political consequence. So there you go. Back for another hammer stream.
If we pass this,
let's go.
The battle will not be over. But even if we pass this bill, the battle will not be over. What happened in Selma is part of a far larger movement which reaches into every section and state of America. It is the effort of American Negroes to secure for themselves the full blessings of American life. Their cause must be our cause too. Because it's not just Negroes, but really it's all of us who must overcome the crippling legacy of bigotry and injustice. And
boo! 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 All right, so hopefully that kind of basically now the federal government is transforming the South into a third world section through migration from shithole countries. Most of this migration being illegal too. The demographics are very poor for Florida, Texas, and Georgia, where all three states becoming a majority colored in a few years unless current trends are reversed. The only upside is that the demographic transformation to majority colored in those states will cause the Republican Party to go extinct, like its predecessor, the Whigs, in the 1850s. They, I did not know about the second Reconstruction against the South. Very interesting stuff, bro. Let me go ahead and end this. There we go. They don't teach stuff like this in the UK school system. I didn't learn nothing about it when I was growing up. Like this kind of stuff was completely removed from our teaching curriculum as well. I mean, we did learn some stuff, but they actually in America they actually do try to some degree to cover up slavery, but then they also like try to acknowledge how morally bad it is, how negative and bad overall it is. And they'll only cover like a little bit of a slice about the history and the life of the slaves during the Civil War, but then they'll move on to other parts of the national historical curriculum. And it's the same, it's the exact same thing with civil rights. Really, I didn't learn that much about it, and I didn't really study history that much when I was in school. My main interest was science, actually, Phoebus. I was very interested in the pursuit of science, and I was very interested in reading all the stuff about biology and chemistry. I didn't really start to get into history or social studies until I was like 15 years old. But how do you guys teach history about slavery in the West Indies in the UK? But yeah, if there was an organized top-down um, movement by both the Republicans and the Democrats in the northern and western parts of the states to erase all barriers of racial separation and segregation, apartheid like laws in the southern states. But yeah, the second Reconstruction has a very long lasting consequence, not just in the South, but all over the United States. It's very central during this sort of outpouring of American economic growth and upsurgence from World War II onward to like the 1980s when it finally starts to curve. This is really probably the high point of America's economic, manufacturing, and technological and scientific progress. Fast food restaurants, mass cinema, mass consumerism really does take off in the 50s. And by the 90s, it's just basically considered to be the norm. In 1991, the Cold War ends, and like this kind of high point of American opulence is largely riddled away. And, here we are now in 2022, and it's just really bad. It's like we abandoned our own industrial infrastructure and we shifted towards more of consumerism as opposed to being producers, shipped everything overseas, and we just started to have computers, video game consoles, television, Marvel and DC movies, all of this massive amount of pop culture with rap and stuff, and it just from the 1980s it just got more and more degenerate and low ebb to where we are now basically. When it comes to the teaching of historic slavery, they focus fully on America. They don't mention the British slavery on other peoples, at least when I was there anyway. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, we really don't talk very much about slavery in America. We have this documentary that's called Roots. There was actually a recent remake of Roots, and it does kind of talk a little bit about the life of the slaves and the abolitionist movement and all of that, but it's really not standard practice. There's far more education on the Holocaust than there is about slavery, at least in Texas. I don't know about other parts of the United States, but like we don't really care much about it. Most people of any race, white, black, or whatever, really do not feel or care that much in terms of being connected with that history. It isn't like in Germany where the Holocaust is just an absolute religion, just an absolute cultic religion of incredible proportions. We don't have anything like that here. Our school system is too disorganized and it's not really that great. And besides, Americans are not really that well educated unless they go to a private school. And even then, we're not really that well educated. We're not as smart as we used to be or educated. I've been reading up on the slavery of Belgium on the American nations. Very brutal stuff. I meant African, not American. Autocorrect. Oh yeah, dude. Didn't King Leopold like murder 1,000 Congolese people to try to get diamonds and rubber? And he would cut their hands off or something with an axe. That's pretty funny. Oh well. Yeah, William, freaking stupid ass William Glory Hole. I don't know who Dr. Computer Shop is. These guys that follow Music Biz Marty were trying to flag my stream down by posting racialist or racist stuff in my chat so that they can report it with other accounts and get my stream taken down. All right, so yeah, I mean that's the second Reconstruction. Right now they're tearing down our Confederate historic monuments and stuff, and they're further trying to destroy the historical integrity of Southern culture. And it's really more of an attack on Southern culture than it is on any particular racial thing. It's the complete eradication of all things that are Southern related. There's a famous picture of a father staring at the mutilated hands of his daughter at the hands of the Belgians. Yeah, I mean, we kind of did stuff like that in the South, but it never really got that brutal. The only time that it actually got really violent like that was the actions of the Klan in during the first Reconstruction, the actions of the Klan against black people to try to stop them from registering to vote. That is so cringe, bro. You must be doing something right for all these scumbags to be effing with you. Dude, they're all coming at me, bro. Toxic Angel, Mormon Shaggy, um, Herb Green, Jay Danks, who else? Oh yeah, Big Dad, Giga Chad, all these guys, all of a sudden they're making coordinated efforts against me, dude, to try to get me off the internet. now they're fake calling people and like pretending to be me, quote unquote, and they're trying to say that I call this idiot, this crack rock Chris guy and stuff. It's a waste of time. It's very immature. I find it funny that Toxic Angel says that I'm mature. I am not mature enough to be in his chat because I use different troll alts, and then he shows that he has like 50 different alts or 50 different channel alts on YouTube that he uses to troll Suit Yourself. So, Toxic Angel, maybe you're not mature enough to be in Suit Yourself's chat or Bells of Nevermore's chat. Did you ever think about that, bro? Did you ever think about that, you fucking hypocrite? So it's okay when you play these games on Suit Yourself, but I'm wrong for doing the same thing. Well, I think Suit Yourself is more honest than you will ever be, Toxic Angel. Yeah, I think that Suit Yourself and Bells of Nevermore are legitimately better people than you will ever be, Toxic. How do you like them apples? Now I'm the one that's able to talk about it, bro. Toxic Angel looks like a homeless meth addict. Have you actually seen what he looks like, bro? I've never seen him, man. I mean, he sounds like a meth head. Like he even talks like he even said he went to Mexico to like get all these drugs real cheap from the cartels. Like he went to Mexico, bro, and he traded with the cartels to get cheap drugs like cocaine and meth, bro. I mean, like, what's up with that, bro? Like, are you for real, man? Like, you can't even fight your addiction to all these narcotics, bro. You have to go to Mexico to buy them cheaply because you're so freaking addicted to them. And they're expensive in these states, so you go to another country to get it cheaper. So what's up with that, retard? Yeah, you're a freaking two-faced hypocrite, Toxic Angel, bro. And again, I want to stress real hardly that I want to stress here that I don't know what happened with Euros. So like Herb Green or Jay Danks or like whoever, dude, Hitrio made a freaking troll account of me where they dox and post all of my information, where I live, what my name is and stuff. And they do this all the time. They drop my name docs and my place docs everywhere. They've doxed my mother and her name and face, dude. And like somebody with a fake Warhammer alias, I was told, went on Euros' stream and said something, and he closed all his videos. I mean, that's pretty pathetic, dude. I mean, Euros, you're going to take heat, bro. I have nothing against you, Euros, but you're going to have to realize that you're going to fucking take some heat. Okay, it's the internet. There's no such thing as winning and losing on the internet, my man. You're going to take some heat, and if you can't take it, they're going to come after you even harder, bro. You got to learn to ignore this shit, man. I thought that you were like some sort of professionally trained light heavyweight stuff, dude, man. Yeah. By the way, playing golf, dude, people play golf for recreational sports all the time. Okay, playing golf does not make you a light heavyweight. What sort of delusion is that? What's up, Galdi? Forge Gang! And what's up, Ghost of Niccolo? Hardman! Go to Esoteric Shaggyism's channel, bro. One of the streams with him in it has a video of him at the start. Euros seems like a good guy at heart, but the guy is a spurg and a snowflake. Yeah, I don't get what his deal is. I don't really get what his freaking deal is, bro. A guide to everything banned in mainland China. That's Mormon Shaggy on the kill stream. Okay. Is it the Mormon Shaggy versus the KKK Grand Wizard thing, by the way? Dude, it's so funny how Shaggy is always felted by these guys, bro. It's so funny. Euros seems like a good guy at heart. He is, bro. Euros is not a bad guy. He's a good man. But he's misled by bad people to do extremely corrupt things. He's a good person, but he listens to the wrong people. He has people that are persuading him. There's a bunch of Grima warm tongues around Euros that persuade him to listen and take the bad advice. So yeah, but he's a very dude. Euros is a super sensitive ass dude, bro. He's very left wing, and he said himself that he's basically almost a communist in all but name. He's not literally a communist, by the way. For those that don't have enough sense to understand, I didn't say that Euros was a literal ass communist. I'm just saying that his politics basically fall in line with anarcho-syndicalism. What's up, Bronx Beats? Forge Gang! I will grind Toxic's face off with an angle grinder. Do it, bro. The guy didn't even realize that bronchosauruses were herbivores. And he said that he wanted to be a bronchosaurus and like eat a human, bro. And like bronchosauruses lived millions of years before humans supposedly evolved out of Africa, bro. What's up with that, man? And they were herbivores. That means they ate plants, bro. How dumb do you have to be to realize that? Stupid ass super monkey, my ass, bro. The video is Toxic Angel and Mormon Shaggy destroy the laughing Adolf. Bro, the guy at the start is Toxic Angel. Okay. I have no way to copy and paste that. Dino Gang. Dino Gang, here we go. We're going to eat some primitive humans all the way. All right, let's see where it is at. This is retarded, dude. This is freaking retarded. Who actually thinks that you can get content out of shit gay? Let's see here. I think I've already seen this before. Yeah, so you know, Shaggy, Damio, and all these other guys are just A-logs of PPP, who's basically an A-log of like Ralph, Nick Fuentes, Baked Alaska, alias Yoba, and like several other guys, Nick Fuentes and Beardson, dude. It's like they're ripoffs of more professional streamers. You know, and like PPP is like, it's been said that he's a failed Ethan Ralph. I don't know, dude. Let's see here. Surfer and Toxic debate Shaggy, Alice's, remove Andy. Is this it? Yeah, that's it. Laughing Adolf.
Addicted to coke. But with weed being as expensive as
Dino Gang, let's go!
I mean, with weed being as expensive as it is these days, I might as well.
We're gonna kill some humans with the dino.
But, no, I'm skinny enough. I think. And I'm watching myself in the camera because I'm actually in my sister's computer room, which is a place to record just a little. I just kind of wanted to show.
Oh, he's white.
What I can do now.
Oh, so he is white. Oh, I thought he was like a Hispanic spick or wetback or something, dude. So that's him. So he lives in a trailer park and he's a white dude.
And I'm watching myself in the camera because
Oh, toxic face dogs!
I'm actually in my sister's computer room, which is a horrible place for me to, record just a little. I just kind of wanted to show a little bit of what I can
Shut
do now.
up.
I hadn't picked up and worked out with a samurai sword in at least 15 years, probably longer. Actually, 20 years. Yeah, it was 20 years since the last time I put my hands on a real weighted sword. This one is a cheap, Chinese sword, but it's sharp enough that if I would have nicked my calf, it probably wouldn't have went to the bone, but it could definitely go through a tendon, and it definitely would have put me in the hospital.
That's not how you do martial arts, by the way.
So this isn't a sword that I should have been rehearsing with by any means, and I definitely shouldn't have been doing it in my sister's computer room. It's extremely dangerous. Right here I'm saying this sword is sharp enough to skin the hair off a cat's ass. That's not quite true. I know that my brother-in-law says it won't shave my sideburns, but I have thin hair on my sideburn. And I told him if I have to scrape my fucking tattoo off, I'll prove him wrong when I come back. But now you got to understand that in a lot of this, I am having to.
You're a fucking skinny ass, short midget crackhead. You're just like Shaggy, dude. Dude, Mormon Shaggy and Toxic Angel are two peas in a pie. They are exactly alike. Oh, and dude, what the hell is that? Is that a transgender flag, bro?
Sorry about that. I'm having a little bit of difficulty with
That's a
my
trans
Mac. I got
flag.
a virus that, for some reason, every program that I have sometimes will just, in the middle of working, it'll just straight close out. I actually had to set my autosave on Adobe Premiere to every minute. And guess what? I actually had it for over a minute, and it didn't autosave the song that I put behind this kata. Now, I want you to understand that in a lot of cases, since I'm in my sister's room, I'm only having to do my kata in one direction. There, I nicked the ceiling, by the way. That says shh. My sister would skin. I come up. I'm like, my sister would skin me with this if she knew I did this. She wasn't home. I would have been more like a 5-minute deal, and she'd have been screaming at me the whole time. But now I don't have time to tell you about quantum entanglement. But let's just say it's not faster than the speed of light is instant. When you flip one entangled particle, the other could be on the other side of the known universe, and it would instantly flip and react. Therefore, when they form new stars, if this one goes into, say, a solar minimum, then this one over here. So, for example, what our star is going through is its communication with another star system that it is quantum entangled. Its particles are entangled with that. This is where you get star-crossed lovers, a book that I'm writing.
Dude, radio signals going to other solar systems have nothing to do with quantum entanglement. You stupid idiot. You don't understand what you're talking about, you stupid moron. Quantum entanglement has everything to do with what happens with subatomic particles on the quantum level, and it has nothing to do with the transference of signals from one star system to another in the galaxy. You fucking idiot. And by the way, most species of bronchosaurs were herbivores.
And soulmates. So our particles that are made of stardust can be entangled with the material bodies of other.
Particles are not made of stardust. Particles are what create stars. Okay? Particles, which are like gluons, leptons, quarks, that produce protons, neutrons, and and electrons, they produce atoms and molecules like helium and hydrogen, which creates stars. Stars, when they blow up, can produce atoms of like iron, mercury, quartz, gold, and so forth, like various heavier atoms on the elemental table. But atoms do not create subatomic particles. You fucking midwit.
Other people, which can also result in our spirits from the stars that we once resided inside and evolved to the point we can communicate through vocal.
No, bro. Humans did not evolve to learn speech. Speech was an adaptation. Have you ever read what's his face? Noam Chomsky's book about languages. Let's see here. Noam Chomsky on language. Here we go. Where is that? Yeah, here it is. On Language by Noam Chomsky, or the Theory of Language Acquisition. If you've ever read Noam Chomsky's book about language acquisition, he will tell you that most experts in their fields do not know how humans were able to gain the ability to speak in such an intelligible manner. So what that would suggest is that humans did not evolve purposefully to develop speech. Humans developed language and speech another way, which would indicate intelligent design.
Blasted apart pyramids and made it out of the same material that the ball cord is made out of. And I'll make my way over there and get some acoustic effects on record. But first, I'm going to show a demonstration from a perspective of acoustically treating a vocal studio, not a vocal booth. I'm not cool with that. It's a little overkill, and I think it defeats a little bit of purpose. But to reverse engineer the idea of absorbing and preventing cross points from intersecting and moving the points at which they intersect, and actually doing it reverse engineered backwards to try to capitalize on the same effects that these ancients did. Obviously, it's not really going to produce the same situation, but in that demonstration, I'll hopefully prove or at least demonstrate that it's not the stone itself. It's what's underneath the ball cord. So, I hope you enjoyed the smallest pyramid in Mexico today. That was a tall horse. So notice. Oh, is this? Wait a minute. Oh, that's the right shag. I was like, that's not esoteric shagism, is it? Yeah, I was like, oh, he's got lore. Sweet. We'll have to get some lore on here. I did drop the link, didn't I? There we go. It's happening, man. Hold on. Oh, this is good. This is good.
Okay. So yeah, I guess now we know what Toxic Angel looks like. I'm gonna stop the screen sharing. There we go. What's going on in the chat? Ash, hey, what's up, Ash? Forge Gang, let's go. Hey, Bronx, Ghost of Niccolo Galdi, Warhammer. Good day or good evening. Hey, what's up, Ash? Good day to see you too. He's scared of his sister. Oh, Toxic Angel is? Dude, what is it with these guys being like the little brothers of older sisters that are more... They're always like younger brothers, and they both have older sisters that are way more successful and have way better paying careers than they do, and much more happier and satisfying lives. And then, like, you know, their little brothers, Shaggy and Toxic, like, have to basically essentially keep up with everything that, you know, they can't keep up with their older sisters. And so they engage in like this crazy ass, like, I want to learn martial arts from kung fu movies. So like they engage in like all this crazy stuff online or on video games and stuff for attention. Like they're needy little brothers, dude, of older sisters that are way more successful than them. But yeah, he is scared of his sister. Blown out. Bronx Saw. The ramblings of a meth addict. I can see why Shaggy loves this dude so much. Schizo Ramble meets meth addict Ramble. Well, Shaggy is really addicted to weed, bro. Hello, Ash. What's up? What's up, Ash? How are you doing? Forge gang. Ghost of Niccolo then says, Forge gang. And then Galdi. Oh, first of all, Thievius shows the hammers. Galdi Galdophilia goes, Forge bros in the hood. Yeah, we're forge hard men, brah. Forge hard men. Hold on a second. I don't want to show that. Nothing much. Good to see you. Yeah, hold on a second. Let me go away, you stupid moron. All you want to do is just ruin all you want to do is just ruin the fun, dude. Just go away, bro. All right, so Ash says nothing much and good to see you. Yeah, I mean, I'm just doing my geopolitics analysis and I'm basically done, so I'll talk a little bit to chat. I might go back on stream in a little bit and do some gaming. I can't get all the other spaceship parts on GTA 5. Like, I wonder what's up with that. But I'll come back on and I'll do some gaming later. So on my next geopolitical analysis, I'll do the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China and what was going on with them during the Cold